morning.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Chris Scarborough, and I've got a question for you. By show of hands, how many of us have failed class in our education system? Looks like most of us. Believe it or not, this wasn't just an exercise to make me feel better about myself. Rather, it was to highlight the weaknesses that our current system holds. And more importantly, what we need to change. With these flaws becoming more apparent, there's a growing feeling that our education system just isn't cutting it anymore. But this is more than just a feeling. According to DoSomething.org, 30 years ago, America was the global leader in quality and quantity of diplomas delivered to high school students. Now we're 36th. So now that we know our system is broken, what is it that we should change exactly? Today I'm going to share with you how and why our education system is doing poorly in adapting to the rapid changing world around us. These aren't dogs, they're humans. Ran by bells, organized by batches, and punished for deviation. It's painfully apparent that our students are being taught in a downright demeaning way. Pavlov would be quite proud. To understand what's going wrong with this method of containment, look no further than to America's not so distant past. Students were workers, workers were students. Here's a schedule, now follow it. These working conditions were synonymous to that of the industrial age values, designed to crank out disciplined and slightly educated individuals. Here's a fun graphic of Prussian teaching. It looks oddly familiar, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, for the factory workers, their success depended entirely on the ability to follow instructions. But not all our kids are going to work in factories, especially not with the way automation is headed. With the way things are and the direction we're headed now, how far can you get in today's world by only following instructions? Considering what's valued today, collaboration, creativity, and the ability to communicate ideas, not very far. Not only are they being taught to work in a failing industry, but they're being taught in an entirely unethical way. Sit down, get your textbook out, and turn to page 67. I'm sure you're feeling the same way I am right now. Shivers down your spine, teeth grating unintentionally, and eyes getting impossibly heavy as your brain actively pushes one thought to the forefront of your mind. Dear God, please no. So here we are. Half our class is asleep already because they're smarter than I am. These two I placed here in the front are confused out of their minds, and I can't go back to teach them because I'll be wasting other students' time. Overall, a painful experience for everyone. Saul Khan from Khan Academy deems this as a fundamentally dehumanizing experience. And it's hard to deny, especially when you've already been sitting and listening for 3.5 hours with another hour and a half to go. In 2007, along the lines of 10% of kids in the US were diagnosed with conditions falling under the broad cover of ADHD. Officially being called an epidemic by many panicked moms. But let's try to think about this for a second. If I sat you down in front of a five-hour-long unskippable ad before you can find out what's happening with Hannah on The Bachelorette, I'm sure your leg would be fidgeting too. Ran by bells, organized by batches, and punished for deviation, it's painfully apparent that our students are being taught right up the cliff of normality. Not only are they being taught to work in the wrong industry, but they're being taught to live in a world with no autonomy. With each minute being tightly regulated by scheduled bells and instructions, it's teaching a terrifying message to children that they're not in control of their own lives. Upon graduation or dropping out, they learn something fundamental to life's messy tasks. What to do and when they should do it. You're suddenly in charge of your own time. Something not taught. As childhood development expert Dan Pink explains in his 2009 TED Talk, autonomy is an innate psychological need. Here's a graphic. See the teacher shaving kids' ideas. Yeah. In a system so standardized, there's no time scheduled to answer questions every child has. What am I good at? Or even, what do I want to do? By blindly trusting this outdated method of teaching, we're denying valuable time in a child's development to let them grow their passions. After all, one's passions is the key to life, right? In our current system, each student is taught the same thing at the same time in the same way, failing all deviance in its path. Luckily, some of those failures can get back on their feet, like those guys Albert Einstein, Steven Spielberg, John Lennon, Winston Churchill. Unfortunately, some are left in the fabricated dust, wasted potential. We simply have no real way of measuring talent for students. Let's have a quick recap. Our system is outdated, not preparing our children for the real world, taught to have no control in their environment, and aren't allowed to discover themselves. At least they're learning something, right? Well, no. The way these kids are being taught is incredibly unauthentic. Most learning is not authentic because it relies on memorization and rote learning, repetition, according to childhood psychologist Adam Brown. By defining a stiff set of knowledge for children, then measuring them every few months with the tests, we can see unauthentic learning in action. Just ask a student to regurgitate that knowledge to you the day after. Poof, it's gone. Between this and the other elephant in the room, no wonder I answered nothing to my mom after being asked what I learned in school today for the better part of 10 years. And here's the elephant in the room. We all learn differently. Not only are students being force-fed information, but they're being fed through their ears. We all have a specific set of resources and tools that teach us best, all of which learning at different speeds. As we've seen today, while these kids have their heads up and towards the future, our education system is face first in the mud a mile back. Driven by outdated values, corrupt life lessons, and flawed teaching styles, no wonder children are more disinterested than ever before. I encourage you all not to just look in the world you see, but to take a step back and see the world we need. Thank you.